listen to what people have got to say and involve them, if not give them the responsibility to work it out.
Yeah.
It takes an exceptionally brave leadership team and an exceptional culture for that.
The whole learning journey and being able to take that into consideration when trying to, like, you know, whether it's like changing a certain part of the organization or just trying to, like, enhance a certain area. I think it's really just being on appreciating that journey with the employees and everyone all together, and also just making sure that everyone has that quality time to do the work and produce those outcomes, and
Yeah,
that's the way forward, really. So yeah,
yes.
interesting.
Yeah, there's some great books written by the Base Camp guys who
Okay.
founded Base Camp. And they're lucky because they own their company 100%. They got no investors. They can decide what they want to do as they do it. And they made a good point. An hour is 60 minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
an hour is an hour, but it's also
Yeah.
60 minutes, or it's four chunks of 15 minutes, or it's you know two chunks of 30 minutes or whatever. And
Yeah.
actually, the more you break it down, the less efficient it becomes. So there's some great stuff in their books about how to maximize that kind of working.
Yeah, of course. Sounds like a book I need to read.
Yeah, there's some good ones out there. I can recommend a few.
Thank you. So last but not least, I mean, I know you've mentioned that we are somehow going to end up in the middle here, with whether it's remote, whether it's office based or hybrid. But I think, like, so what would you say ultimately is the approach that most companies will eventually lean in towards?
Assuming there are no political challenges to this,
Okay.
which there are for some companies. So if you imagine if I was the CEO of one of the largest or number of largest companies globally,
Hmm.
I'd probably have four different offices in London as well as many globally, let's say. That my decision to leave that real estate isn't mine, wholly mine. If I'm a company of 20, like we were, I
Yeah.
can go, brilliant. We won't have to come into, I'll just let my lease go and we won't pay rent anymore. Fantastic. I can make my choices. But the problem is that in the big world of work and this kind of environment, those four properties form part of a property portfolio for a wealth management company or somebody else, a landlord. Um, those those concerns of those companies are paramount. What are we going to do with this lost real estate? The people who have a relationship with that CEO are going to be lobbying that person not to end that contract or making it difficult for them. Even and this, I'm sure this exists, as the CEO, if I make a statement, look, we're going to be deconstructing our head office and we're going to be doing this, I could quite
Yeah.
easily get a call from one of my non-exec directors on the board or a chairman or something and say, hey, gee, what are you doing? Because that person's on the board of that pension company that's got an entire portfolio in office companies, right? So there are many political and work issues that
Yeah.
I think can shape this. But if those are parked for a minute, my advice to companies and leaders would be you you just need to accept the paradigm,
Okay.
and the first thing you should do is enter into a dialogue with everyone
Yeah, of
and
course.
not just simply send out a questionnaire. Enter into a dialogue and
Hmm.
start to say, how can we, what's important to me, what do people really want, what worries you, what engages you on this subject, what are your hopes that can come from this, and stuff, and what are some of the practical things, because there will be some people who will say we can't do it because, and they will be relevant. um, and that for me is the fundamental most important thing, is don't make a call, talk to your people and understand what's going on, number one.
Okay.
And number two, largely let them lead the way and work it out.
Okay.
Because doing what we might have done in the past, how do we restructure this business globally? We're in I don't know, we're in banking, and online banking is disrupting what we do and how it will all shape the business in a very similar way. Let's say, let's get a consultant in at the top and they'll go, and then we'll just push something out. That's the days of that kind of approach are numbered. You
Yeah.
need to get it in from the side or the bottom up. So
Yeah.
listen to what people have got to say and involve them, if not give them the responsibility to work it out.
Yeah.
It takes an exceptionally brave leadership team and an exceptional culture for that. But the lunatics can run the asylum. Uh, Unfortunately, for some of these leaders who don't think they can. You know, humans, generally speaking, in this environment are largely aligned around a goal of work being something that I want to do and I want to do it well and want to everyone to benefit. So hand it over is how I would say. And then the third thing is don't expect it to be something that you're going to solve in the next 12 months or 2 years.
Yeah.
If we are really considering this shift, significant shift, this is an evolutionary process.
Yeah.
um, and you fully need to understand why we got here in the first place and the damage that it is potentially doing and the folly of it, and why did it take a pandemic to expose our limited thinking. But then you
Yeah.
also need to think forward as to the best way to do
Yeah.
that, and don't rush it. Like I said, I hate meetings, and internally I've said, I applaud all of these, make meetings half an hour only and only three people and at once, and if you don't like a meeting you could get up and leave. All of these things we've tried over the years, but we still have bloody meetings. It wasn't until we were forcibly removed from the environment that we actually reflected, and we don't need them. Actually, you're right, we don't, not even that meeting. What, you sure? Yeah, we don't, do we? Well, let's do without it and see if it
Yeah.
damages us. That it takes that shift
Yeah.
to break the dependency that then allows you to say we didn't need to do that anyway. So it's really important that we're not doing any knee-jerk things. We're just we know this is going to happen, so let's work a plan of doing it, but accept that it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is a journey. And also that point you mentioned about, giving those employees maybe that responsibility to make those decisions. I think that's really interesting because they say that employees are what the future of the organization because they would also grow and take on the roles. And then having a way that's, that they pave that way for the future generation of workers to come will just mean that it's an evolution of like improving the work processes and improving more productivity in the company because you're actually saying, you know what, we are going to dedicate this responsibility to the future leaders of the company, really. And
Yes.
that's a really really interesting point for people to note. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I don't,
Yeah.
sometimes I sort of talk about these things, and um, I get accused of being naive, and that it's not as easy as you say. But that um, I saw a clip, and I saw it on TikTok, right? And it was somebody asking somebody else. Whoever was being asked the question was, I think, was a movie
Yeah.
star or something. Didn't recognize them, but they asked them the question. They said, "What's the biggest lie you've ever been told?" And the person responded, "It's not that simple." And the interviewer then said, "But why isn't it? What do you mean it's not that simple?" He said, "No, no, no. That's the biggest lie I've ever been told. It's not that simple." And that is a thing that permeates the world of work and our relationships. When we say, "Why can't we do that?" It's not that simple. Well, it is actually. You just make it more complicated. Why can't we do that? You wouldn't understand, right? Our world is that, need to know basis, right? You will need to know, and at the moment you don't need to know, so I'm not telling you. All of these things we've just put, these are barriers we kind of put in the way. And I think the important thing for us is to get over that. And so,
Yeah.
I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that if you're running a 50,000, 100,000 global corporation, that this, ask your people, get them to do it for you. Bob's your uncle. 6 months' time, you've done the journey. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult to ask 100,000 people what do they think. Of course it is, but if it's significantly important to the future of the company, then overcome that difficulty.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Start small, find, ask the questions, pick an area to start with, you know. But it's only possible if ultimately you're in the mindset as a leader that you
Yeah.
want this to happen. If you don't and you're not, it's not going to happen.
It's true. I mean, you can't. Some people will just put it as excuses. You know, you can't put an excuse.
Yeah,
If the mindset's there. If the mindset's there, then you're gonna, make those. Even if even like you said, it's a journey. Even if it's something small at first, that's going to impact the future and the company in the long run. Then you got to start somewhere. Start small, and then gradually
yes,
increase, and you'll get there in the end. But it's like you
yeah,
said, it's a mindset thing. No, put it down as it's not that. It's not that simple. It's not all this. That just sounds like an excuse. It really just means that you got to take out the complications out of it and start from somewhere. That's
yeah,
that's the goal.
yeah. Decomplicate it.
Yeah.
We're so
That is it.
good at complicating things, And if I've learned anything over the years, it's keep it simple.
Yeah.
But it's hard to be simple.
Mm.
I can't remember if it was Mark Twain that was attributed the person who said, "I don't have time to write a short letter, so I'm going to write a long one instead." Right, and I can align to that because when I write, I write blog posts and stuff. I could knock out 1,500 words really easily on a subject. But if somebody says, "Can you put that 1,500 words into 600 words?" It'll take me 3 times as long because I need to deconstruct the complexity in the language I'm using to
Yeah.
put it together in 600 nice simple words. And it's sometimes hard to, you know, keep peeling back to make things really simple. But once you've
Mm.
made something simple as an architecture, it scales brilliantly,
Yeah.
right? That's the point. Complex systems that scale always come from the simplest, best architecture and blueprint. And
Yeah.
so it's not easy to unpick that complexity, but it's absolutely essential if we're gonna grow.
100%. And it's been a very insightful conversation. Thank you, Gareth, for
No,
bringing me
good.
into your world and making me understand how it's really
My
what.
naive, long in the tooth, judgmental world that I have on these things. But yeah, no, it's been great. I appreciate the opportunity to
Thank you.
chat
I
to
mean,
you
it
about
has
it.
opened up a lot of different questions and really the true understanding of what really does the future of the workplace look like and what companies can really do to, everyone's got to start from somewhere. So it's
Yeah,
really, really interesting. So thank you for that.
you're welcome.
I really appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you, Gareth, for taking time with me today and on this episode. And it's been great having you on.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the opportunity.